Alright y'all, DP here, back with a follow-up. After my last video on VA rating protections, I got a lot of questions about what does this mean for me if I'm 100% PNT. So what are the VA rules for 100% permanent and total veterans? Now, a lot of veterans think that PNT status means that the VA is never going to touch your rating again. Sadly, that's not the case. Sometimes we've seen instances where veterans who should have not been called in for a reexamination or reduction, which should have been protected, have been called back in. So this sadly happens. So in this video, three things that I want to cover. One, can the VA still review your PNT rating? Two, when can the VA legally take action on your rating? And three, how to protect your 100% PNT status. Now, if you haven't watched the previous video where I go over the 5, 10, 20-year rule for those that are not 100% and how those protections apply to those ratings, a 50% rating, a 20% rating, check that out. Little link will pop up above me. In that video, I give a whole breakdown of VA protections for those veterans there. Now, here's the reality. If you are a veteran who's 100% PNT, permanent and total, the VA has pretty much determined that your condition is not likely to improve in some shape, fashion, or form. So they should not be scheduling future exams. However, that doesn't mean that you're going to be completely safe. Again, the VA can take a look at your rating for a few different reasons. One, if there's a VA error. Something like, for example, OIG reports that I've covered. I'll link some of those here above me as well in the description, where they reported that the veterans were being called in for reexaminations that they should have not been called in for. Sadly, the VA makes mistakes. Even if you know your rights and regulations, you still might get caught in one of these examinations. Two, there are instances where the VA may have made a clear and unmistakable error, a Q. Now, if you've had a Q, this means that the VA is coming around now and saying, hey, they've made a major mistake with assigning your rating. So they can come back now to attempt to correct it. Sometimes they just erroneously give out 100% PNT rating. It does happen. Sometimes they get lowballed. Sometimes they go a little bit over, right? And then three, if there's evidence of fraud, the big one. Now, if they find out false information was submitted, they can investigate this. Also, sadly, you may request a review or a new claim, and this may trigger, accidentally, a review of your condition if you're fined for something. Not to be mistaken with don't file a thing because you may be called back in. It just sometimes happens. So, for example, you file for a new condition, they may look at your full history as it relates to that, including your PNT status. It does happen. So bottom line, while PNT should be protected, there are situations where the VA can take a look at your case. That's why it's important to know your rights and regulations and how to protect your ratings. Now, should you get a letter for a reexamination and you're 100% PNT, a few things to do right away. Number one, check if it's an error. If you've been PNT for years, the VA may have just made a mistake. Call the VA to confirm if the VA exam that they're calling you to come in for is necessary. Two, you can request a hearing if they propose a reduction. Sometimes this happens randomly. For whatever the case may be, marked improvement over a period of time, something didn't go the way it's supposed to go, you can request a hearing for that. You have 30 days to do that. This gives you time to gather evidence and to fight back. Three, challenge the CMP exam. If the exam is incomplete or incorrect, you can dispute it, right? So there are instances where you may go to an exam and things don't go the way it should be. You can appeal this. Now, temporary improvement does not mean that they can reduce your rating. I know someone has tinnitus. Again, temporary improvements does not mean that they can reduce your rating. Get an independent medical opinion from a private doctor, providers, etc. out there to give more facts to what you're arguing. You'd be surprised if you're facing a wrongful reduction, an outside doctor's opinion can help counter a bad decision because you're giving them that proof now. So if you're 100% PNT, you shouldn't be getting reexamined without good reason. However, the VA does make mistakes, so you need to be ready to push back. So let's wrap this up. Will the VA automatically reexamine your 100% PNT rating? No. Can they review it under specific circumstances? Yes. Have veterans been wrongfully sent for reexaminations? Unfortunately, yes. What should you do? Know your rights and fight back if needed. I cannot stress this enough. Now, If you have questions, drop them in the comments and I'll answer as many as I can. If you haven't watched my 5, 10, 20 video, make sure you watch that video where I break down those protections for those that are not 100% PNT for those conditions. The link will be in the description, as I've mentioned before. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. But please understand, above all things, this is about protecting your hard-earned ratings. I'll say that again. It's about protecting what you've earned. I've got your back, and I'll see you in the next video.